Retelling's here to share the good news of J-E-S-U-S of J-E-S.
All right, hello. My name is Tanisha.
And I'm Bisa.
And we are
The Retelling.
We are telling biblical stories and what we get from them, and really just breaking them down, trying to make it a little fun, but never taking advantage of the seriousness of God's love and what He has for us. But I hope that you are able to enjoy this. I hope that you are able to get great things from it. Today's episode is called You the One.
You the one.
And it is about David, Goliath, and the power of faith. Now, I love David and Goliath. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. I, like many people, love the story of an underdog, love to see the underdog win. And you kind of see that theme a lot in the Bible, where God uses the unexpected person to do the big thing that gives Him the greatest glory. So it is one that I absolutely love, and I am super excited to delve into with you. So this story starts with a war. A little bit of a buzzkill, sorry from the beginning. But it is the Israelites and the Philistines are at war. And they are kind of each in their own mountain, and there's a valley in between them, and they're just like glaring at each other every day. Like they're beefing. They are like the Bloods and the Crips. Like it's about to go down. They are not happy with each other. And at all. They're kind of at this standstill because the Philistines have a literal giant on their side.
9 feet.
9 feet tall. Yes, like we call people giants today. Like, oh, Shaq is a giant. And I mean, yeah, he is a tall man. But no, Goliath is a literal giant. He is huge. His armor is huge. So he is a super intimidating presence because he's on the other side. And who is going to want to go against him? And Goliath knows this. He absolutely knows this. So every day for 40 days, and 40 days is something we see a lot in the Bible. It's a time of testing. It's a time of cleansing. So we see that in a lot of different stories. But every day for 40 days, Goliath goes to kind of the line so the Israelites can see him. And he says in 1 Samuel chapter 17, he shouts to the Israelites, "Why do you come up and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill you, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistines said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." That's a lot.
Basically, he said, the long and short of it, he said, who's going to check me?
That's it. He said, who's going to check me? He said, you're a punk, you're an even bigger punk, and none of y'all are going to do nothing. Right. So he put a lot of disrespect on their names. And the problem is, the Israelites are looking at him, and they're like, well, I'm not finna check him.
right. You're going, I ain't going.
Because who is going to be the person that goes up against the 9-foot giant? Like, there's no way that this battle is going to go well for you.
Especially if you're a 5'5". Like,
yeah, it's not going to go well. So they are in a place where they're just feeling discouraged. They essentially been bullied for the last 40 days. They don't know how they're going to get out of this. They don't know what to do. Insert David. So David goes on to do some amazing things in the Bible. He becomes very close to King Saul. He eventually becomes king. He does great things. He makes some mistakes too, but that's a story for another day, and we all do. But at this point, David is just a young guy. We believe he's maybe around the age of 16. He's musically gifted. He plays, I'm going to call it the lyre, L-Y-R-E.
Yeah.
That sounds like the way you pronounce it.
Because otherwise it'd be liar, and I don't think that's it.
That don't sound right to me. I'm no music historian, but I believe it's a lyre. And he is a shepherd, so he takes care of the sheep, and he is the youngest in the family. And I feel like the baby in the family, it's hard to get respect. It is very hard to get respect. So He does not have that from his brothers. Now, all of David's brothers are fighting in the Israel army, and he is sent to them by their father with some food. You know, he says, "Bring your brother some food." So he kind of like, DoorDash them.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like they had a whole barbecue going, and Dad said, "Take your brothers a plate." So David said that. So he gathers up the food for his brothers, and he goes on over to the troops. And the kind of crazy thing is, like, when his brothers see him, they get mad. They feel like he's just being nosy, like he wants to see what's going on. And that could be because they are feeling discouraged and they have been bullied, like I said, for 40 days. So maybe that's why. But David was just doing what his daddy asked him to do. Like, he said, "Bring out some food. Here's the food. What you gonna do?"
Right.
However, when David delivers the food and he's there, he sees what's happening with Goliath, and he becomes enraged. He's like, who are you? Who are you to pick on my people? And he says in verse 26, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?"
Who?
Them fighting words.
He said who?
Who?
Who is you?
He is shooketh because you're not about to talk to God's people like this. So David decides that he is going to take up Goliath on this offer. Like, who gonna check you? Me. Period. No old me. Now, of course, David's brothers are like, "Don't do it. This is a bad idea. Like, you are little." I kind of feel like they thought of him as maybe a little bit of a hippie, like just playing his music, hanging with the sheep. But at this point, like, he has used his slingshot. He has fought off lions and bears. Oh my.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
Exactly. So he knows a thing or two about battle. Like, he takes his job seriously, but they don't look at him seriously. And I think that is like such a preach too. Like, a lot of times people will discount us, but God knows who we are, and God knows the plans that he has for us. So it doesn't matter if you're not the most well-spoken. It doesn't matter if you're not like the biggest person. God has something for you. And David saw that, and he wasn't afraid. He said, "Yeah, that 9-foot giant, like, I'll take you because you are not going to make a fool of us. Absolutely not." So the brothers are like, "David, don't do it. Like, you finna get squashed." Right. They're ready to watch a massacre. And King Saul also says, like, "I don't think it's a good idea. You are too young. You're too little. It's not going to work out." But David cannot be talked out of this. He is going to fight Goliath. He is going to bring honor to his people and ultimately honor to God.
Right.
Saul dresses up David in his tunic, and he gives him some armor to wear because you're already little. You're already not actually a part of this army.
You have no
training?
combat training.
Yeah, nothing. So at least you could go out there with some protection on, right? That makes sense. But David puts it on. It doesn't really fit because it's not like to his measurements. And he tries walking around in it, and he just feels uncomfortable. Like, he knows that it's not for him. He knows that he would not be at his best in this armor. So he takes it off. So again, like, we have so many strikes going against us at this point. Like, you're not trained, you're not wearing the armor, you're going against the giant. And I'm sure all of the Israelites are looking at him like, "Boy, what?"
I don't want to be in slavery. You better send us to slavery.
Exactly. Like, they are thinking that things are not looking good at all. However, he takes his things off because he feels confident that God has equipped him to do what he needs to do. He doesn't need the armor. He doesn't need like instant muscles. So he tells Goliath, like, "Let's fight." And Goliath is pissed off. Like, because he was looking for the biggest, he was looking for the baddest, he was looking for the toughest. Like, he wants to make a point, right? And if you have ever been in a situation where you're coming into a new area, like, sometimes you want to prove that you're big and bad. Sometimes you don't have to. You don't have to.
Right.
And
Which means you want to fight.
You want to fight.
The baddest.
You want to fight. And you don't want to fight like the weakling. You
No.
want the biggest, the baddest, the toughest, all that. So Goliath is like, are you for real? Like, I could probably just blow this man over. Ain't no way. Absolutely ain't no way. But David says, yes, I am here. I am fighting. I am going forth with the armor of God, and I'm going to take you on. So they gear up to fight, I picture this, and I'm sure it was now, but I picture it like a Western where they're like walking in with the legs spread, like, let's get at it. I am 100% sure that's not actually what happened, but that's where my mind takes me. So they are staring each other down. David pulls out his slingshot, which is the slingshot that he uses as a shepherd. Goliath has a giant, because he's a giant, so he also has a giant sword. And again, everyone's watching, just knowing that David is about to get taken out of this world.
It's a nail biter.
It's it. It's it. I'm sure like not a peep could be heard, not a single peep. So David pulls out his slingshot, and he only armed himself with 3 stones for the slingshot. Like, that is how faithful David was, that God was going to provide for him. He said, let me just, because I probably would have had like all my pockets full, like just in case. He only took 3.
Mm-hmm.
So he loaded up 1, he slings it back, lets it go, and it hits Goliath in the middle of his forehead and like crushes his skull, and he just dies on the spot. And that, to me, is such a preach, because Goliath never even got to touch David. Like,
Not touch him at all.
and if he did touch him, yeah, he probably would have broken him like a twig. So the fact that God made it so that David just needed that 1 second to take this huge giant down. And then after Goliath is very dead on the ground, David picks up his giant sword and he cuts off Goliath's head with his own sword, which, like, that right there is just like, whew.
I'd love to see that. Like,
Honestly.
what does it look like to pull up a 9-foot man's sword and wield it?
Like, that is poetic justice.
It
to me.
is. And all Israelites' butt cheeks unclenched at that moment. There was an unclenching. at that moment.
Absolutely. Because after these 40 days of being bullied, here comes little David, and he done did the thing. So this story just teaches me so much about faithfulness. David knew that God had already equipped him with everything that he needed. He didn't need the armor. He didn't need to be big and bad and tough. He just needed to have faith in God, and he needed to believe that he was fighting not for his glory, not so everyone could say, oh, look at David, he is the best fighter ever, but for God's glory. It was all about God's glory.
Yeah.
He had said in verse 45, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. So even in the way that he interacts with Goliath, it's all about God. Like, he is angry because Goliath is messing with God's people, and he's not feeling that, and he wants to bring glory to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the story of David and Goliath is so like relatable and well known, even with people who aren't followers, because we all have giants in our lives, right? It could be student loans. Ugh. It could be relationships. We all have giants that we are coming against. Like, we have all felt like the little guy up against something so big at some point in our life. For me, my giant, many times, I have many giants. Let's be real. That would be a long episode if I try to tell you all of them. But I would say that mine is anxiety a lot of the time. I get in my head and I feel like I'm not good enough to carry out this job, or I am going to be nervous and mess this thing up. I can't perform. I can't be on stage singing God's words because what if I stumble? What if I like to go through every single possible scenario to the point that it just gets ridiculous. Like, why would I trip and fall off stage? In what world? For why? You're not even going to be near the end of the stage. though. I let that anxiety get in my way. And it's just something that I bring to God a lot. Like, God, I hear the irrational thoughts happening in my head, and I just pray that you calm my mind. And I love that I am able to do that to find a sense of peace. Are there any giants that you feel like you're up against, Lisa? It's the deep ancestral side for me.
So, any giants? I think if I were to talk about giants, I think it would be sometimes, it's a horrible spirit. It's a horrible spirit. The spirit of comparison.
Whew.
And looking at what others have and what I don't have, or what others are doing or getting and what I'm not getting, can sometimes steal your joy. Like, it steals your joy.
Absolutely.
Because you're so focused and distracted on something that is so insignificant. Like, it is seriously insignificant. It makes no difference what others have, because what God has for you is for you. And what that looks like may not look like what so-and-so has. You might just get a 2-bedroom condo. So what, they have a 6-bedroom mansion with a house on the hill. Like, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I think we focus on the wrong things. And I actually went through that. So I was going through a season of, I felt like it was winter. And if you know about winter, it's barren. So I felt like I was going through a season of barrenness. And God told me, he was like, I'm enough. And I was seeing people get jobs and promotions, and I was looking for a job. I have never interviewed so much in my life and not landed a job. Like, for 2 years, I interviewed and applied and didn't get nothing. And I have never been that unsuccessful.
Yeah, that's rough.
In my life. Not even a part-time. I couldn't even get a part-time job. I couldn't get nothing. And I was seeing all these people around me prosper. And my thought was, well, why not me? And what did I do? And God, you don't love me. And that wasn't true. And what he said to me, and this is my ridiculousness, was, I am enough. Mm-hmm. The house, the car, the job, the promotion, all these things are additional, because as humans, we are made to crave. So we always are looking for the next thing. Once you get this thing, then you want the next thing. Once you get the house, then you want a bigger house. Once you get the car, then you want a second car. Once you get the promotion, when's the next promotion? So we're never satisfied. And so what God said to me is, I am enough. I am the only one that can fulfill you. I am the only one that can satisfy you. The house, the car, the promotion, those things are just bonuses. Like, if you have those things, if you get those things, that's a wonderful addition to me. But it is me, and I am all that you need. And I had to sit with that. And I had to remind myself that, like, God is enough. God is enough. And I still, to this day, have to remind myself that God is enough, because the enemy is always present and always working and always sowing lies and deceit. Absolutely. And so I have to remind myself of who God is.
Yeah. And it's so easy, especially with social media. Like, everyone just posts what they have, what they're getting, what, you know, we're getting married, we're having babies, we're doing this, we're doing that. And it is great to celebrate, but nobody is on social media really saying, like, I had a bad day, I lost my job, this happened. You know, we're posting those highlights, and it's like everyone is looking at what everyone else is doing, and it is inspiring more of that sense of, like, oh, I'm not far enough along. But you are. Like, we are where God wants us to be. God has a plan for us. Mm-hmm. And we just have to be in for the wild ride that life truly is.
Yeah. And trust him. Yes. Like, truly, truly trust him. And what does that look like? Trusting him looks like surrendering. Trusting looks like abiding. Trusting looks like obeying. Trusting looks like patience. Ooh. Right? Trusting in God takes, I don't want to say takes a lot, because it sounds like, oh, it's a lot. It feels like a lot, but it's truly not a lot to just trust him. And I think it's because we're so used to doing things our way, or doing things in our own strength, or thinking that we know best. Like, nope, I need to do it this way. This is how this has to work out. And that's not necessarily the truth. If you say, Lord, I trust you. And there was a time when I did that. Lord, I was about to be homeless. I was like, all right, Lord, what I can tell you is I ain't going back to Baltimore, so it's me and you, God. It'd be me and you in the car, but it's going to be me and you, God. And in the 11th hour, I was able to find a room, and I rented a room. And I didn't move back to Baltimore. I continued to stay in the New Jersey, New York area. And so, but I completely trusted God. I was like, I didn't, and when I say I did nothing, it was like, yes, I looked for apartments. Yes, I did those things, but I wasn't freaking out when I was like, I need to be out in 5 days. I need to be out of my place in 5 days and I have nowhere to live. I was not freaking out. I was just like, all right, God, nothing's popped up, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust that you got this worked out. And I do mean in the 11th hour, like maybe 3 days before I needed to be out of the apartment, someone said, oh, we were just randomly talking. I was like, hey, girl, what's going on? Oh, nothing, looking for apartments. I'm not really able to find nothing, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, I got a friend who has a house who's renting a room. What?
Well, he do it.
She gave me the number. I called, went and saw the room that day, and I was moved out and ready to go when I needed to be out of the other apartment with a roof over my head. And so when I say God will show up, and you just have to trust him and not feel like, oh, because my strength would have been, dang, all right, I guess I need to go back home. Mm-hmm. But I was very resolved and I wasn't going back to Baltimore. I was very resolved and I'm not going back to Baltimore. Baltimore has nothing for me. That's where I was in that space. And I was like, so God, whatever it is, I am trusting that you're going to make it happen right here in New Jersey.
And that's so inspiring because when we trust God to do big things, like that's something that we can always look back on. I think that trust and faith, we don't always say it, but they can waver, you know? If David got up there against Goliath and had a moment where he was like, wait, was this the right thing to do? He could have been. Thanos snapped up out of here. He believed in God to do what he said he would do. So I think, you know, if you are in a season where you're feeling like things aren't working, where you're feeling far from God, where you're feeling like your trust isn't as big as it could be, you can look back on those faithful moments that you had and just remember, like, if he did it then, he finna do it again. Mm-hmm. Like, God can do anything. A beautiful thing.
It is. And the last thing I want to add to that is, like, the underdog, right? So, you had all the naysayers. Everybody was like, Dave, nah, bro, it ain't you. You're the shepherd. You be with the sheep. You play music. You don't do battle. You have not trained for this. And he's like, I'm doing this. I don't need to have trained for this because God is on my side. And I think sometimes we let people get in our head. Yeah. We let people tell us who we are. And only God already said who I am. I don't need your 2 cents. And I'm not going to allow your 2 cents to dictate who God says I am.
That's right.
And sometimes you just have to trust who God says you are. And he's like, God delivered me from bears and lions. He will deliver me from this giant. And he felt boldly by that. He was emboldened by his life as a shepherd. He's like, my life as a shepherd does not look like your life as a soldier. But the difference in it is God. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
That's right.
That is Philippians 4:13. Like, I can do all things. And I think that we have to walk boldly in who God says we are and not let other people tell us who they think we are. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because people will always have something to say. But if you lean into who God has told you you are, and he tells you all throughout the Bible that you are loved, you are his sons and daughters, you are fishermen. God tells you all throughout the Bible who you are. So if you ever just, lose sight of that, look it up. Google, what does God say I am? And you'll find a whole big old inspiring list. And absolutely nothing on that list is negative. Mm-hmm. Not a one.
And because AI is out there verified with the Bible, just go to the Bible and make sure you look up those scriptures and really read who God says you are, because reading his word is super important. I know people sometimes feel like they're not loved by God because of what they're going through, but his own son died on a cross. His own son was persecuted by humans. His own son was lied on, given false witness against. His own son went through these things. And what I used to say to myself to help me navigate those thoughts, and I don't know if it's going to be helpful to you. And it was helpful to me, and I don't know if it's necessarily helpful, but what helped me navigate was the fact that I'm like, if Jesus can do that, and he's God, and I'm nobody next to him, how can I expect to go through this life and not experience struggle and hardship? Now, it's not about the experience of the struggle and the hardship. It's about how you navigate through the struggle and the hardship, because we can hem and haw all day long and complain through the hardship, which I think makes the hardship harder.
Yeah.
Right? Or we can say, you know what? This sucks, but I trust God. You know, like, I don't like it. I don't like it. And you can be very upfront with God. God is big enough to handle that. Like, Lord, I don't like it. When my mom died, at first I was like, oh, I'm not mad with God, because God, he saw me through. Boo, 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 boo. And then I was like, no, God, I'm actually upset with you. I'm mad. Why'd you have to take her? Blah, 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 blah. And I went through it, right? I had to let it all out. I laid it all out there for God. And then I allowed him to work on my heart through that process. I was like, all right, God, I'm mad, but I'm going to stay in your word, because I know only you can get me through this. Not a friend can get me through this. And when I say not a friend, because I did have some friends, one special friend who got me through, because her mom had passed before mine. So I'm like, she knows exactly what I'm going through and exactly how I'm feeling. And so I listened to her wisdom of what I was feeling, because she understood it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Although it plagued me, because I never thought of myself as a weak person. And so me having anxiety attacks, I'm not an anxious person. That, oh my God, that all in and of itself was just too much. But I think that when you trust God and you have your moments with God, and you tell God how you feel, and you trust him with your thoughts and your feelings, because that's what he wants. He wants you to tell him how you feel and where you are, to trust him, to talk to him. And I did that, and I remained in his word. Although I was mad at him, I remained in his word, because I knew that I have this friend because he loves me. He has sent someone here to support me through this. And he loved me through that whole process. He showed up for me through that whole process, no matter how angry I was. And I did not let go of him through that whole process, because I was like, I have to trust you to get me through this, because I don't know how I was going to do it.
Not on our own strength.
Never.
All right, so some of our key takeaways from today, or the T. A big one is that faith is action. It's not this
passive thing.
Thank you. Passive is the word that I was looking for. It's not this passive thing where we can just sit back and think it's going to be handled. Like, faith is hard. That's why not everyone has it. Faith is hard. We have to act on it. We have to do things that are scary sometimes, because God has called us to do them. And if we are obedient, amazing things can happen. But unfortunately, faith isn't just like this thing that we can slap on a shirt, as we do, and expect it to be a part of our lives.
Like, it's activated.
Excellent. Another thing is use what you've got. Like, if David tried to fight Goliath with all the armor just weighing him down, it would have been awkward. He knew that he was going to use the full body armor of God, and that's what he did. So feel like you are good enough. You can talk about God's word with people. You don't have to be the best, the biggest, the this, the that. You don't have to be perfect in your walk to do what it is that God is calling you to do. When you take that leap of faith, which is not passive, God will help grow you, equip you, mold you. You will be surprised by the things that happen. And also, another takeaway is just God shows his strength in our weakness. So there are things that we can't do on our own. It's God. God is so powerful. God is so mighty. And if we just call on him, he will help us when we don't have the strength, when we don't have the willpower, when we don't have it in us. We've all been there where we just felt completely empty, like there was nothing left to be poured out of us. We can just lay at God's feet and be strengthened through him. Be in the word and see what he says about us. It's so important to go back to the word all the time and be in prayer and just have an active relationship with God. Like Sundays are great. I love church. I love seeing my people. I love just all that. But Sunday is not the only day for God. We should be praying every day. We should be in his word every day. We should be talking to him every day. We should allow people to see his light through us every single day. So keep God with you all throughout the week, not just on Sunday.
Absolutely. And I have a question. So what does active faith look like? Or what would you say active faith looks like?
Ooh, that's a hard one. That is a really hard one. Active faith to me is knowing that it's not our own strength and trusting that God is going to meet us where he needs us to be to carry out his mission. Like all of the things that we are doing should ultimately be to glorify God, to show his good, to reveal his character. So to me, faith is like truly believing that, not just saying it, because it's easy to say, oh, I'm a believer. Like how many people say, you know, I'm a Christian, but you're not in the word. You don't go to church. You don't really have an active relationship with God. So it is putting ourselves out there, knowing we don't have that 100%, but knowing and trusting God to meet us where we are and to equip us.
Yeah, I think if I had to think of active faith versus passive faith, I would say David is a gleaming example.
Oh boy.
Of active faith. Faith is, you know what, I am trusting God is going to show up. Mm-hmm. And I am going to continue to move as if God is going to show up. So he said, I trust God, I am wearing the armor of God, and I'm going to slay this giant. And that's what he did. He said, because I'm a child of God. And God says, I am great. And so I am going to do this because he is defying not just the army of Israel, but God. Yeah. He defied Israel's God, right? So not only is he trying to punk us, he punking God. Like Goliath was like, I'm holding no cut cards at all. Everybody can get it. And so David was like, I'm fighting for my God and my country. And I think active faith looks like reading your word, reminding yourself that God is present and powerful and all-knowing, reminding yourself that God loves you, reminding yourself that God is holy and God is just, and then living that out, like walking that out. I think that is active faith because you are believing what you're saying. And then I think passive faith would be like the rest of the army. Yeah. Like, let's be real. The rest of the army, they were like, yeah, Yahweh.
Mm-hmm. Something's going to happen eventually.
But I'm not going out there because he's going to kill us. And they did not trust and believe that God would deliver. Now, not one who had been trained to fight in battle, not one who has fought many battles, not one who was the biggest and toughest in any other battle. They saw a giant and they were
terrified,
stopped in their tracks. And so I think that's I think that's passive faith, by saying you believe in God, but you are not willing to move forward in that. You're like, I believe in him, but this situation looks a little impossible. Where active faith, even though David never thought the situation looked impossible. Everybody else thought the situation looked impossible for David, but David was like, the situation's not impossible because I serve a God who can do the impossible. And that is the difference. Like David is active faith, the soldiers are passive faith. Like that is absolutely the difference because they believed in God.
Yeah, they believed in God. They were proud of their country. They wanted to fight for it. But when it came down to it, they
let fear. No. They let fear of man overtake their fear of God. Like fear of man outweighed their fear of God. And when I say fear of God, let's break this down. So fear don't mean afraid. When people say fear of God, people are like, my God, when I fear him. Well, it's not. When you think about the Hebrew word, it really means reverence and awe. right? So they revered God. They were in awe of him and his holiness. And that's what it meant to fear God, to be in reverence. It was a sign of respect and awe for God. So when it says fear God, it's not saying, oh, be afraid. Like you should, he can smite you. But that's not what it's about. It's not about fearing him because of what he could do to you, but it's about fearing him for who he is in terms of reverence, awe, and respect. He created the earth and everything in it. So he deserves all the reverence, right? And so that's what fear means in the Hebrew context, not in the U.S. American context.
He truly deserves all of glory. So what I would love for you all to do is think about, what are your giants in life? What is the thing that you are up against that just feels so huge that you don't know what you're going to do? If you feel comfortable, you can comment about it and share it. If not, just give that to God. Give it to God either way, but take it to God and just know that you are enough because you are the sons and daughters of God. Trust God to meet you where you are. I pray that we can all have some of David's faithfulness. I pray that we could all just see that giant and know that it is not the end all and be all.
Absolutely. So make sure you put in today's takeaway. Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you read your Bible. That story is going to be in 1 Samuel, and I believe it starts at chapter 15, 16. I want to say it's chapter 15, 17. But either way, 17. Mm-hmm. So 1 Samuel chapter 17, if you want to read that particular story. And definitely, if you read it and you have something that God revealed to you in that story, definitely let us know about it. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Bye.
It's the bread of life. Alpha and Omega. Our firm foundation. Jesus! The well that never runs dry. You still thirsty off the Henny and you wonder why. JESUS is all you need. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty Prince.